思いついた。しよう。やったー。
Sequestros! Power of the Sentai!
Come again, traveler. Welcome to the Bradley Uppercrust Podcast, the only show where myself, I am August, runner of this channel, talk with my dear friend. Introduce yourself.
Demonica.
Demonica. Yeah.
I'm cool.
Yes. We talk about just whatever comes to mind, whatever heinous nonsense, tomfoolery, fool-tomery, jerry-foolery comes to mind.
Jerry Foolery. That's
Yeah.
and friend of the podcast, Jerry Foolery.
We appreciate Mr. Foolery and his sacrifice in the Navy.
Rest in peace, Jerry Foolery.
Yeah. We'll have a moment of silence. Okay, that's enough. Anyway, today's topic is we're talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, and something that this channel, at least, has seemed to respond semi-well to. We're talking about the wonderful, terrifying, dangerous world of Super Sentai and, to an extent, Power Rangers, a show that many a child of the 90s and 2000s is readily aware of.
Yeah. And, like, things like... I've been aware of, like, Super Sentai for a while now. Like, I think since, like, my early teens. Ever since I found out that, like, oh, like, Power Rangers, like, the footage is, like, repurposed from the Super Sentai series. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to, like, get into, like, Sentai and, like, other tokusatsu, but I just never really did. But I'm very curious about it, and so I want to hear about it from someone who is versed in that kind of stuff.
Versed in the stuff. And I guess worth shouting out, the other kind of big tokusatsu, there's kind of a big three in tokusatsu. It's Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Ultraman, which I would say Ultraman is probably the one people in the West tend to have the least exposure to, just because it is the one with very few legal, with like the fewest legal channels to watch it through, at least newer seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the same can be said of Sentai and Kamen Rider, but we'll just not discuss the particular legality of consuming these shows in our digital age. But point being...
which brings us our sponsor, ExpressVPN, NordVPN, VPN.
VPN, NVP.
Elephant Monkey, VPN.
Dog Water VPN.
Horsecock VPN, sponsor of this podcast. Horsecock VPN. If you need a VPN to nefariously watch your tokusatsu, remember, get Horsecock VPN.
It gives the biggest protection of them all.
But I mean, I know what you mean when
yeah.
When
yes.
you bring up the legality.
The legality issues of some of consuming particular pieces of Japanese media, which I'm sure a lot of the nerds watching this podcast are well versed in. But I guess more to the point, the two of the series, Kamen Rider and Sentai, were created by a guy called Shotaro Ishinomori, who first started these series out as respective manga, which then got adapted into live-action television shows and have since kind of spawned wildly out of his original very restrictive visions for these properties and become totally unique in their own regards and rights, while also still falling back heavily on certain patterns and tropes, which I'm sure even a casual viewer of Power Rangers would be able to point out to you, like, oh, the monster gets big, there's the sixth ranger, yada yada yada.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could name some, Monica, I'm certain.
Maybe.
But that's I guess kind of the background info here. So, I guess what in particular are you curious to hear about, know about? Is there anything that would be a good jumping off point?
Well, I guess something I've kind of wondered is, like, what is the definitive, like, Super Sentai series? Like, is there any, like, series that's considered, like, the one? Is it, or does everyone just have, like, their favorite?
Okay, so I think there's basically, that's a very good question, because I think the one most people are going to point you to as, like, the one is the 35th iteration Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger, which is it's the first series I watched, and basically because it was so acclaimed being the reason I dug into it.
Is that the pirate one?
Yes, it's the pirate one.
Oh my
Features
God.
a bunch of space pirates who have all the powers of the past Super Sentai series, and through their travels and exploits, they have to discover they're trying to find the greatest treasure in the universe, and along the way figure out the meaning of protecting and saving people.
Is it, so it's like One Piece?
Basically. And the greatest treasure in the universe, I kid you not, it looks like a Triforce. Like, identical. One sec, let me see if I can find a
That's
picture.
fucked up.
The greatest treasure in the universe.
But,
Gokaiger.
what year was it released? Like, 2011?
2011, yes.
Right. That feels fairly recent for, like, what would be considered the definitive, like, version.
Okay,
Like,
there's a photo.
Wait. That's just a fucking Triforce!
It's exactly a Triforce!
That's just a Triforce. That's not even... Wow, they didn't even try.
They don't
Force.
disguise it remotely.
They didn't even try Force. Anyways,
Yeah.
That's just a fucking Triforce. Anyways.
No.
But yeah, 2011 feels fairly recent for a series, or like a version that's considered like the definitive one.
Yeah, it's at least one of the most popular, at least one of the most, like, well-lauded by a really good stretch.
You see, because like, if you were to ask, like, I guess an American or like a Western viewer what they considered the definitive Power Ranger series, I think they would say Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think the answer you would get from just the general public are going to say Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but I guess to explain and understand the reach of Gokaiger is that in the 40th anniversary, there was a 2-episode arc in Dobotsu Sentai Zuoger, or Zuoger, however you want to say it, but there was a 2-episode arc where the entire cast of Gokaiger returned with the powers of the 4 teams in between Gokaiger and Zuoger. And then, for the 45th anniversary, which was just last year, Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger, that team's 6th Ranger and kind of also a couple, is like just his suit is the Red Ranger from Gokaiger, but painted gold with some extra flourishes on it. It's identical.
No, I gotta be, I gotta be a bit transparent. I gotta be honest. A lot of what you're gonna be telling me today is gonna be flying over my head because there's just a lot of lore. It feels like a lot of like details and like lore
Oh,
that
yeah.
like I don't think anyone going into this uh will have expected. Because
Yeah.
like again, I guess I mean I'm not even like a big Power Rangers person, but for me as a kid it was like simple to like understand. Um
Mm.
I how deep does this lore get actually?
I would say the lore tends, because I'm really describing deep cut stuff, because most of the lore, like the really intricate lore, nitty gritty stuff, comes from crossover episodes or like crossover movies where you see teams joining forces, because the kind of set standard is that Sentai canon is very weird, because you can take it from the interpretation that seasons 1 through 44 all take place in the same universe until you get to season 45, which says they're all in their own universe. And to further reinforce this, season 6 has basically the leader character from season 45 comes back as a completely different character with like the same name, but he's a different person. It's
See, the way you describe that makes it sound like there's some kind of universe split. Like
maybe.
like and that's kind of like something I want to ask is like so all these teams, are they like all like in the same universe, or is there like time or like dimensional fuckery that happens
It's
like Doctor Who style where
it's
they like bring them
yeah.
together?
Oh yeah. The most enraging part is that it's kind of just completely dependent on who's writing the show,
See,
because like take for instance Gokaiger. Everything happens within the same universe. That just has to be the groundwork for that series to work. But then we look at a season like Q Ranger, which is the 41st season, where the world's basically already been taken over by an evil force. And so that just can't fundamentally exist in any of the same universes. So I guess that's the thing you kind of have to take with Sentai and Kamen Rider and Ultraman to an extent, is that continuity is very much dependent on what the writer wants. It's kind of non-existent and also omnipresent. It's very weird.
all right. Something else I want to ask is like, so I guess from the outside looking in, I can look at all of these like Sentai series, and like they all seem to have like their own sort of like gimmicks.
Mm.
And some of them look alright, some of them look strange, and I can't tell what the fuck is happening. So,
Oh yeah.
yes. So can you sort of give me a rundown of some notable teams and like gimmicks?
Okay. I guess, and just because I'm on the subject, Gokaiger, their gimmick is pirate themed, and they can transform into any previous team. Or I guess if you're going by newer versions, future teams. Probably the important one for like, so, and it starts out fairly simplistically, because the first three teams, Go Ranger, Jekka, and Battle Fever are all like spy themed, but they take that in different ways, where Go Ranger is just colors, Jekka is playing cards, and Battle Fever is nations of the world. And for a long time they were kind of ambivalent towards like animal themes, because it was like they had animal stylings like in Sun Vulcan, but were more secret agent oriented. And I guess that was a lot of the early stuff. It was very like secret agent kind of James Bond, I guess, like team of secret super spies almost for some time. And you get a break in that with stuff like, I guess, an important team would be Flashman, and their whole thing is that they're the first like space themed team, and are all like, they've all had their minds wiped. They don't know their identities, and that's kind of the hook of the show, that it's like they gotta find out who they were before the series started.
So they're all Shadow the Hedgehog.
They're all Shadow the Hedgehog.
That
Yes.
sounds sick.
I guess a lot of the early gimmicks, a lot of it started very simplistically, because it was just like, I can punch this person really hard, or this guy's got a sword, this guy's got a lance, stuff like that. Just each person had their own weapon. And then you get to a series like Mask Man, which introduces the concept of the characters each having their own kind of individual fighting style, and it was very martial arts themed.
Alright.
Yeah. And then the big one is Jew Ranger, which was the first dinosaur season, and notably what got adapted into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And this season kind of changed the whole paradigm of like, now this season had a very like mystical kind of undertone to the whole thing. And like the Zords were alive, well, not the this is weird, because like the individual Zords did not have their own consciousness, but the Megazord they formed did.
So it was like, wait, so then they kill it every time they disassemble it?
It not really, because it also exists as like this greater being.
So
But
it possesses the Megazord.
I guess it kind of, possesses the Megazord would be a good way to put it.
It's fucked up.
It's fucked up. Real talk. But I guess that's kind of a rundown of, at least, because the early stuff is very, I guess, very tropey and within its own ways. And then you get a season, and some of these shows are just really weird and esoteric with their theming, because there's a show like Turbo Ranger, where the characters are car themed, but they're mystical car themed, because they get their powers. Cars? They get their powers granted to them by fairies.
What the fuck? Okay, no, I'm still stuck on like mystical cars. Like, what does that mean? Like, what are these mystical cars?
So the great mystical cars are like a semi.
What?
Yeah. So the Black Ranger's thing is Turbo Truck, and it's just a semi, and that's his like mystical fairy car.
Dude, Elon Musk doesn't have shit on this, dude.
He doesn't have shit on the mystical fairy cars. Oh my gosh, and their mech is so crazy. I'll send you this, because
I want to think it's like a giant car.
Its feet are cars.
Oh my. Its feet are just cars.
Its feet are just cars.
I'd get it if its feet had like wheels, but its feet are just straight up fucking cars.
It just stands on top of cars. But and the best part about this is there's a later season, Car Ranger, which got adapted into Power Rangers Turbo.
Wait, so there's more cars?
Yes, there's... But the joke with Car Ranger is that it was basically a parody of Turbo Ranger, because it's got the same gimmick of, like, mystical fairies granting them, like, magical car powers, but also they're, like, it's a much more comedically toned series.
I see, so they're kind of taking the piss?
Kind of taking the piss, yeah.
It's fucked up.
And I would say it's really in the newer modern, like, 2010s stuff where you get a lot more of the gimmicky stuff, because early shows were just like they had their suit and they maybe got like 7 or 10 Zords, somewhere in that marker, but as you progress, it just gets more and more absurd with the just amount of stuff the people have at their disposal. They've just got more and more stuff, and I think Gao Ranger, which got adapted into Wild Force, was the show that really solidified this, because that's got like magical beast animals that are also giant robots, and that show has like 25 Zords or something like that, and they just form a ridiculous amount of combos and stuff.
Right. I looked up Car Ranger, and I got an image. I got an image. Can you contextualize this for me?
Let me see if I can. Okay, yeah. So that weird alien guy, he's the fairy that granted them their powers, basically.
I see. Why?
Because they needed to defeat the villain of the show, who I forget who that is.
This guy is the villain of the show.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot look into those eyes and think there's any, like, well-meaning in there. Like, this man is insidious.
He is death.
He is hell-bent on destruction. Now, can you tell me what the most fucked up, like, out there Sentai gimmick is?
Oh boy.
Like, what you would consider that?
I think it... I'd have to think. Like, it would probably be something a little more on the... You know, I'm gonna go with the one that's, like, the weirdest, most mangled one possible. Which goes back to Go Ranger. Because... So, for the first, like... 83 episodes of the show, the team's theme is just like spies, right? And I've kind of said that. But then suddenly in the last episode, it's revealed that there's been a secret theme where the team has actually been based around the constellation of Cassiopeia, because like the first kanji of each of their name spells out Cassiopeia, like a Romanized version of the constellation of Cassiopeia.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, because it's been fated on the stars, now we've got this team that's themed after a constellation, and we can win the day now. So I guess just a really weird, mangled one because it doesn't come up until the literal last second. So that might have to be my answer because a lot of the show's themes are like kind of either they're like it tends to be this dichotomy of either mysticism or something more technology based.
I kind of want to know how much of like a Power Rangers person were you before you got into Super Sentai? Like, did
I
it bring you into it, or did you just get into Super Sentai on its own?
it kind of brought me into it, honestly, and it was because the Super Mega Force, which is the show that adapts the Gokaiger footage, is so terrible. I was like, this is utter bullshit. And that is what ultimately led me to kind of get into Super Sentai, because I was like, well, this just did this idea so terribly. I want to see what the original is like. So that kind of led me, because the newer Power Rangers stuff I found lacking in quality, it led me down that path. But I will say, generally, I do harbor a nostalgia for quite a couple seasons of Power Rangers, and I think there's a couple that are still pretty good, and some that are even better than their Sentai counterparts.
Alright. Well, what would you consider better?
Yeah. So I guess the natural answer for me is always Power Rangers RPM, which takes another car-themed Sentai, which is Go Onger, and that show has a very silly kind of comedic tone, which isn't anything inherently bad, but RPM just basically takes this completely goofy framework and delivers just some of the best written Power Rangers characters, some of the most well-rounded, and like 7 of them all in one season, and it's really entertaining, I find, and just kind of outdoes the original just by virtue of storytelling, even though they have different goals, and I think that's the thing I should emphasize. Power Rangers and Super Sentai often have very different goals for what they're trying to do, so comparisons can get a little unfair, but it's really just up to personal preference.
Right. Something I want to know is like, is there any ranger out there that is like the most overpowered, like just insanely like, but basically like breaks the scale and is basically like a god?
Yeah. I'll do a Sentai example. There's actually a good one for both, and they're both Sentai and Ranger, but the good like Sentai example is Daigo from Kyoryuger, where he just gets basically power-up stacked on top of power-up and defeats the main villain of the whole show all on his own, pretty much, with his team kind of cheering him on and singing him on. So that's what I would say is quite overpowered, especially because he's basically a person who never has a moment where he's down or is losing for a second, and just is consistently powering through things and is ridiculously overpowered, I would say.
Now, I'm assuming, because of something you've told me before, that the Red Rangers are like usually like the strongest of their team.
Yeah.
So, is Daigo a Red Ranger?
You're right on.
Okay. Who would you consider like then of like the Power Rangers, the most overpowered ranger?
I would probably say Mac from Operation Overdrive. And I was actually referring to this earlier to you, but he is the particular Red Ranger who just destroys an entire giant monster without a Zord.
He just like goes Shadow of the Colossus on it.
Yeah, like he just jumps up, does a big slash, and kills it.
What, he just jumps good?
He just jumps good.
So like he no fly.
Jump
Jump
good.
good.
You can fly?
Beyond your dream, you can fly? No, jump good.
No fly. Jump good.
Good.
So it's like that?
To be fair, he has like a power-up engaged, which of course he does, but
I was gonna
point
say
being,
it'd be quite funny if this man just jumped good and slashed a monster.
yeah, but he still jumps good because he still does it. And he is also a Red Ranger. Big
Right.
shock, but
Right.
I guess that can be one of the fairer criticisms of recent shows, is that they really basically turn the Red Rangers into Kamen Riders,
Right.
where they just get a bunch of forms and powers and leave pretty much everyone else in the dust.
When are we gonna get a female Red Ranger? Come on. Come on.
In
Come on.
Shuriken Sentai... No, not that. That's a bad Sentai. Samurai Sentai Shinkenger. Shuriken Sentai Ninja sucks, but Samurai Sentai Shinkenger, that has a female Red Ranger for a brief period.
Words.
Yeah, cowards.
When are we gonna get our all women Sentai team?
When is the Sentai Girl boss team?
When Lord when? And then you make the Pink Ranger the one guy. And he absolutely just owns it.
He owns it, yeah.
No, but yeah, that's interesting. So if you were to put together both of the characters that you had mentioned, both Daigo
And Mac.
and Mac, who would win?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or do we all lose?
I think we all lose is part of the answer. But some of it, I think, is that I feel I'm inclined to say that I think Daigo wins just by virtue of Max still needing his team to help him with the final boss of the show, and also being dead for a brief period. Where I don't think... Yeah, that's another weird trope where, like, Red Rangers will die for a brief period of time and then come back. Like, this has happened in the most
straight
recent...
up die?
Yeah, just straight up. This happened in the most recent season, actually, that's
Is
currently airing.
Is it like a Goku kind of thing where he dies and then like the rest of the team has to like figure out how to like do something without him, and then the tension is brought on by like how fast can he come back?
There's a bit of that, yeah. It's
Okay.
kind of a case by case thing, but that's definitely some of it.
Right.
And I did find out there is technically an all-female team in the web tournament Super Sentai Strongest Battle. There was a pink warrior team which featured all pink rangers from various teams, of course. And they fought together and were all pink and all women, and yeah.
It's badass.
It's badass.
That's like a billion Bret Harts right there. Just a team of Bret the Hitman Hart.
Bret the Hitman Hart, yeah.
Alright, well that's interesting. And so you've got me curious. Since like the Red Ranger is typically like the best one, are there other tropes that carry through like other colored Rangers? Like the blue one is like a coward, or like the green one is like an asshole. I don't know.
Yeah, no, there are some kind of tropes where you usually like, and a lot of the tropes tend not to be color specific as just Red Ranger is very overpowered guy.
And
definitely
like,
in
Pink
the
is always girl.
Yeah, Pink is always girl, except in the latest season where Pink is a guy.
Oh, it's Bret Hart. Bret Hart joined Sentai.
Bret Hart is so funny. I just looked up what it...
Wait, did you just look up Bret Hart?
Yes, like a couple minutes ago, and it was like, oh my gosh. And it fit perfectly, yeah. That's brilliant.
What a glorious man.
What a glorious man. Bret Hart. I'll have to, like, edit the Pink Ranger's helmet from the most recent season onto him.
Hell yeah, dude.
And that can be in, like, the video.
That's the thumbnail.
That's the part of the thumbnail for sure, yeah.
But yeah, so tell me about the tropes.
A big trope is definitely like, and this, one of the tropes is definitely, if you have a team of characters who are in their like 20s or so, you have to have one who's like 17 or 18.
Oh, so the baby.
Yeah, you have the baby, and contrary to the baby, you have the super old guy who looks just as young as everyone else, and that spot is usually occupied by the 6th Ranger. Of like, he'll be like, because the 6th Ranger, I know at least in O Ranger, was like 10,000 years old or something.
Oh God.
Which also makes him like one of the oldest characters. No, I'm sorry, he was 600 million years old.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's much better.
Much better.
How?
But
like, you were just writing dinosaurs then?
Yeah.
What the fuck? You're older than religion.
You are older than most things on Earth.
You were like the first human.
Easily. But yeah, that's a trope among 6th Rangers, where it's like they'll be way older than the rest of the team.
They're like the grizzled old like Rangers coming to teach the youngsters how it's done.
Either that, or they'll like have awoken from some ridiculously long sleep. That's another one they like to do a lot.
You see, like, with like the sort of like reverence around like, you know, those like other Rangers, like I would have thought that like one of them would have been like the most powerful, like closest to like a deity kind of like entity on the team.
Yeah, I mean you would, and they're kind of the second place to that, is what I would say. Like sixth Rangers usually get like a very gigantic second fiddle to the Red Rangers orchestra.
A gigantic second fiddle.
Gigantic. It's so big, Paul Bunyan could play it.
Paul Bunyan.
Paul
Could play it.
Bunyan. The Bunyan Ranger. He's got
Bunyan
a,
Ranger.
he's got a blue ox sword.
Oh yeah. There should okay. I guess since you've got me wondering, we should like spitball some ideas for future team gimmicks that
Okay.
they should do.
Yeah.
And you let me know if they've actually done any of
I'll
any
let
of
you
these.
know if yeah, the box has been ticked.
All right. I want Rangers, like a team based off of like monsters. So there's like a vampire, like Red Ranger. There's like a
Okay.
green Frankenstein zombie kind of like Ranger.
Like, yeah. This
Uh,
is a new one. There are rangers with like monster themes, but they're like one-offs in their team.
oh, it's
And
fucked
not
up.
like there's demon rangers, but there's not like a whole team of demons. So
Yeah,
so that's
So
a new one.
I want one that's like all like classic monsters. I also want one that's like pro wrestlers, and they do pro wrestling moves.
I-
Um,
There's
Hands of
martial
haters.
arts ones, but I don't think anything that's explicitly wrestling. So that's
and that
That's a
surprises
new
me.
one.
That surprises me because, like, pro wrestling is like fairly large in Japan.
yeah. No, it's not. I guess Geki Violet is kind of wrestling themed, kind of
Okay.
boxing.
Geki Violet.
Yeah, he's Wolfman.
Oh man. A wolf man.
Yeah.
Furry Rangers.
There are furry rangers.
There's Anubis.
Oh yes, there's Anubis. There's also like the entire cast of Zoojer. Most of them are furries. Like some scalies in the mix, but they have what are called human forms, where they're just furries. I mean, like
God.
like this. This is just a furry.
Oh, that okay. I thought. Is that what they wear?
That's what they wear.
Okay, I thought it was just like they had like ears on their helmet or something, or like I don't know, like they had claws and like. That's just straight up like a furry.
It's just straight up like a furry. Yeah.
Wow. All right. My other idea was there should be a video game team where they're like
Okay.
they go into like video games,
That's kind of the latest team, also.
like Scooby Doo and the cyber
And the cyber chase. Yeah.
chase. Yeah, they go into their own video game and they fight viruses.
I guess you might
They-
actually be looking for Kamen Rider X-Aid.
They're
Where-
gonna be the NordVPN Rangers.
The NordVPN.
The Horsecock VPN Rangers.
The Horsecock V...
No,
No, wait, no, each ranger has to be...
Sponsored
each-
by Horsecock
Horsecock
VPN.
VPN. Each ranger has to be themed after a different VPN, though. And
Oh,
and
God.
together they combine to form a Megazord that is like
A
King
horse,
VPN.
a horse-shaped Megazord. And you can imagine where Horsecock VPN would be placed.
I mean, take a wild guess.
Every Megazord needs a sword, so
Yeah. But yeah, I think yeah, a lot of these ideas are surprisingly only like kind of tapped on. Like Dawn Brothers, as I was saying, has like it's more virtual reality than video games explicitly, but
Right.
it kind of fits in there, sort of. But
I want a Sentai team that's like based on holidays. So
I know there's Rangers with Christmas forms. That's something they like.
Christmas
To do.
forms.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
In like Gokaiger, it all goes back to Gokaiger.
Go Kaiser, what are you doing?
There's an episode where the Silver Ranger takes like it's the Silver Ranger and Red Ranger, and they fuse together into one person, and they become like a red and silver ranger.
Wait, so it's not like the Red and Green Ranger?
There's also that though. Maybe I'm thinking of separate episodes, but there's also a point where like the Red and Green Ranger have their like transformation devices fused, and that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, and they make a Christmas Ranger that way.
Wait, but do they call themselves a Christmas Ranger, or
Yeah,
is it?
It's called Gokai Christmas.
公開戦メリークリスマス年に一度の聖なる変身赤と緑の豪快クリスマス
Oh my fucking god. God damn.
Let me see. I think... Yeah, okay, this is, I think, a separate episode from... Yeah, okay, this... I was thinking of two different episodes, but yes, he does unleash... The Silver Ranger does become the Christmas Ranger.
No! Do you think, the Christmas Ranger, slaps the shit out of you when you say Happy Holidays?
It's Merry Christmas in this country.
He's like the physical embodiment of the war on Christmas.
I'm on the side of Christmas.
I put the Christ in Christmas.
Absolutely.
Oh
No,
my
I think you're actually right.
God, we have to cancel the Christmas Ranger.
We're coming for you, Christmas Ranger.
Christmas Ranger.
We got a hit on your head.
But yeah, I'd like my team to have a Christmas Ranger, an Easter Ranger, a St. Patrick's Day Ranger, a Valentine's Day Ranger.
Okay.
I think the 6th Ranger should be like the Earth Day Ranger. So like, we only occasionally remember him.
Oh yeah.
But he's also very important.
No Halloween Ranger.
Oh no, yeah, we'd have a Halloween Ranger and a Thanksgiving Ranger.
Maybe they're like, they come together as like a package deal. They're like one guy who transforms into two things.
The Autumn Ranger.
Yeah, the Autumn Ranger. Who has his Halloween form and Thanksgiving form.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they could be like themed after like seasons.
Okay.
And like yeah, you could have one that's like a team that's themed after seasons and also like times of the day. So there's like autumn, winter, summer, and fall ranger. And then there's like night and day ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the 6th ranger, oh, well, that's already 6 of them, but like the other like ranger is like the dawn or like the dusk ranger.
There we go. Yeah. Maybe that's a thing where like day and night ranger, it's just one guy with two forms, and dawn and dusk is one guy with two forms, so that makes 6.
Alright, yeah. Where is like, has there been a Sentai team that's like themed around like rocks or like crystals or gems or something.
Yes.
Tell me about them.
It is called, the team is Cura Major, and they have magical talking gemstones, and like the pen pineapple apple pen guy is the mentor in that season.
Wait, for like the whole season?
Yeah.
Was he already doing that, or did they get him because of the meme?
So this was a show in 2019, I think.
Okay, so he was known by then.
He was known by then, yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, they accidentally, like, had him before he was famous.
Yeah, that would be funny. But no, he's like an actual thing.
Pen, pineapple, apple pen. Where do you think that guy is now?
I wish I knew.
Probably collecting all those sweet Sentai royalties.
Collecting the Sentai royalty checks.
He doesn't get anything from pen, pineapple, apple pen anymore.
No, it's a dated meme.
He's like, he goes into his own video and he comments dead meme.
Dead meme.
ひらめい天使遅咲きクリエイティブひらめいゴールド
But yeah, he definitely does that, and occasionally another thing to add to the ridiculousness of the pen pineapple apple pen guy being the mentor is that there's a brief scene where the characters imagine him to be like the seventh ranger of the team, and in this imagination sequence he has on a scarf that is like reminiscent to the one he wore in that video.
Oh, so they're like referencing the meme?
Yeah.
This is like the deepest cut so far.
It's I have no idea why they decided to cut so deep and go so hard for no reason.
The writers were just having a field day with that one.
They were just having a good old laugh.
Well, I guess we can close this out soon, but I want to know, what would you call your favorite team, and who would you say is like your favorite ranger?
Okay. Favorite team is, and I know I've said their name to death at this point in the video.
I guess is it Gokaiger?
It does have to be Gokaiger as a team. Now, it doesn't have my favorite ranger, but I think the team of Gokaiger, the reason that show is so popular is because all of the individual characters on the team are so strong, like strong in a writing sense, in that there are very few Sentai series that balance out a cast of 6 characters as well as that show does, and they each have their own like thing to do in the show and feel like they have a purpose rather than just being like a kind of backing section to just like cheer on the Red Ranger. So that would have to be why I think they're my favorite team. Favorite ranger would be a character I've mentioned on this channel before, actually, but it would be Guy Yuki from Jetman.
Oh, yeah.
Black Condor, otherwise known as, and he's just a character who goes through this really exciting and like fun individual transformation over the show, which I won't get into too much detail, but he is someone who feels like a distinctly evolved person from where he starts out in the show. So I just really am a sucker for when characters have like an arc or a very strong personality that lets them play off other characters in a really enticing way.
Alright. Now, real quick. If you could comprise your own Sentai team, which Rangers would you pick from which team? Just the ultimate team that you could put together.
Okay, ultimate team. So for the red, I'm gonna go Captain Marvelous from Gokaiger. And I'll just do, I'll do 5, just to be, because that's good. Black Ranger, I'm gonna say, it's gonna be, guy from Jetman. Pink, I'm gonna go with, what's her name? Yuri from Time Ranger. Let's see. Yellow. Or is this guy... who am I thinking of? No, green is going to be Daigo from Dai Ranger. Or Shishi Ranger, separate character. And for the last person on the team... no, green, I'm going to write over that. Green is going to be Senna from Kira Major. Changing my green last minute. And so for my final slot... you know what? I'll go with someone from the new season just to shake it up. I'll go with, I'll go with Haruko from Dawn Brothers. Okay, and the rationale behind this team is that it's basically just a lot of my favorite characters. And
Okay.
And a lot of strong voices of leadership and charisma in there. And even the ones who aren't necessarily at that same power level still have their kind of own defining abilities and skills.
Okay. But could they beat the Looney Tunes in basketball?
Oh, damn. I don't think they could. I've done this.
Your team ain't shit, August.
How
Your
have you
team ain't
stumped
shit.
me?
Your
No!
team ain't shit, August!
No! No! As always, thank you for watching the Bradley Uppercrust Podcast. My name is August, and my whole perception of reality has just been completely destroyed because I have realized my favorite franchise is inadequate under the weight of the all-present and all-powerful Looney Tunes.
You're goddamn right. Anyways, this has been the Bradley Uppercrust Podcast, the only podcast.
Only podcast.
What are your last words, August, before you combust?
Before I combust, I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton.
Perish.